Namaste, greetings and blessings, and welcome to the Center for Spiritually Integrated Arts. This is our Sunday message, and I am Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson, the founder and spiritual director of this center. And I invite you to watch not only this Sunday message, but any of our archived messages. I invite you to join any classes or events that we have going on. I invite you to reach out and email if you have any questions. Questions about this community, questions about me, questions about what we do, or questions about this science of mind and spirit, liberation theology that we practice and teach. And if by chance you find yourself seeking beloved community with other like-minded beings, even if you already belong, are a member of another community, church, or center, you are more than free to have multiple affiliations wherever you are fed and find community. You are invited. And lastly, feel free to click like, subscribe, and share this or any other message or announcements with others in your circle. And with that, much appreciation, love, and blessings. Enjoy the message. Namaste and greetings. July, huh? Wow. Okay. So, what are we talking about? The theme for the month? Rolling in the deep. Today, specifically, lessons from under the sea. Warning, because there's a lot of stuff I want to cover, we might go over time a smidge. I'm going to do my best, but we shall see. Stay tuned. Buckle up. Are you ready? Okay. Lessons from under the sea. What would it mean for you to unlock the power within you and to embark on a transformative journey of divine insights? We're going to revisit these questions, so stay tuned. Why is this even a thing that we're even talking about or considering? Well, this week we are invited to embrace and embody both the wisdom that is passed down through the generations and the wisdom of right here and right now, to not only shed the patterns, the habits that no longer serve us, but to step into those that do serve us. And not just serve us individually, but serve us collectively. What would it take to discover the path to living your life more fully, authentically, and boldly? Dr. Holmes offers the truth points to freedom under law. Thus, the inherent nature of humanity is forever seeking to express itself in terms of freedom. We shall do well to listen to this inner voice, for it tells us of a life wonderful in its scope, of love beyond our fondest dreams, of a freedom that the soul craves. Now, I was going to do a remix of this, but I'm going to just snip it for a moment and say a freedom that the soul craves to embody and express, because freedom is the natural state of the soul. It is our natural place of being. Think of it this way. There was a time when, I'll use me as an example. Several hundred years ago, I'm running free across the beaches of the continent of Africa, chilling, doing my own thing. I spot this thing on the horizon. I've never seen such a thing before. I have no idea what it is, but I'm awestruck. Come to find out, there are people, but they're so pale. They throw nets over me and capture me and put me in shackles. Put me on that thing, which I later come to find out is called a ship. Cross the waters. Didn't know there was an across the waters, but across the waters. Took a long time. Many of my friends didn't make it. Oh, and the smell. But nonetheless, we arrive at another land beyond my land, but the shackles remain. Whips are brought into the mix. But my soul craves the freedom that I had. I'm not experiencing it here now in this new land with these strange peoples and their customs, but my soul craves the freedom that it knows. It's the same thing. So this thing, this inner voice is telling us that there is a life far more wonderful than we may be experiencing. There is a love far beyond whatever we may be dreaming about love, and that there is a freedom, the natural, divine freedom that the soul craves to experience. This is what? Freedom under law, freedom as we practice spiritual principles. This is what we are talking about. That's why we practice this, so that we can liberate ourselves and the collective. Breathe. So I mentioned before, we're going to revisit those questions. What would it mean for you to unlock the power within you Well, let's ask these questions. What is locked? How is it locked? It's not one of the questions on there, but how did it become locked? What is the key that will unlock it? And once it is unlocked, what is this power? And within what? Within where? Where is this power? What is this power that is within? See, it's great to talk about what would it mean for you to unlock the power within you. But if we're not getting clear on what's the lock, how is it locked, when did it become locked, what does it take to unlock it? And once it's open, once it's unlocked, what is the power that is within, or what is that? So simply sit with the questions. Because there is this idea that somewhere, somehow, there is a vault of beliefs, paradigms, that when we recognize the vault, we are then able to do what we need to do to crack the vault, open the vault, and in opening it, we find our true selves. And that true self ultimately is we find our God self, the realization that we are the universe in expression. But we have to be able to identify what's the vault? My beliefs, my habits? How do I get into it? And once I'm in, what do I find? How do I use what's inside? So, what would it mean for you to unlock the power within you and embark on a transformative journey of divine insights? Well, what is the journey? How do I travel this path? What is this journey? How is it traveled? Do I walk it? Do I meditate it? Do I vision it? Do I paint it? Do I sing it? What, what is the method that it is traveled? What's the destination? If I'm going to travel somewhere, I need to know where the where is that I'm going. And then what or who will I be once I get there? Once I have traveled, once I have embarked on, because it says embark on, start it. Doesn't say arrive at. Once I have embarked on, there's these divine insights. Okay, well, once these divine insights, what are they? But once they're here, who or what do I now become as a result? Breathe. In essence, what we are talking about is the concept of the hero's journey. Every story of the hero's journey, no matter where it is, whether it's Lord of the Rings, Dune, Star Wars, Harry Potter, etc. The character is not the same person in the end of the story that they were in the beginning. Some transformation has occurred. And while they are the same person, they are more of themselves, more of who they could be as a result of the journey. How are we taking those steps on our own hero's journey to become more of who and what we already are? See, the hero's journey doesn't make them into something they're not. It brings them into a space of here's a choice. Do this, become that. Do that, become that. Right? Like we could look at Luke Skywalker. It was very clear a certain part of the story where Yoda just knew Luke is going to do what his father did and become enticed by the dark side, and Luke will be lost to the dark side of the Force. And if Luke had made certain choices, he would have. But he made other choices. And yet, pre choice, all of these infinite possibilities of who and what Luke could become were already present. And as you journey, oh, I could go right or I could go left. If I go right, Jedi. If I go left, Sith. Go a little further. If I do this, then that. And if I do that, then this. How do we unfold in our own hero's journey as we go through the various twists and turns of our lives? And note, this week, as I said before, we are invited to embrace and embody both the wisdom passed down through the generations and the wisdom of right now, to not only shed the patterns that no longer serve us, but to step into those that do serve us. What would it take to discover the path for you to be able to live your life more fully, authentically, and boldly? What is required for that to happen? And in terms of that which is passed down, we could talk about a whole lot of hand-me-downs, ancestrally, culturally, socially, educationally. There are a lot of things given to us, and not all of them are great gifts. Some of them, yes. Presence may be presence, not present like a gift. Presence may be handed down. The ability to be present with someone or something. Wisdom may be handed down. Love may be handed down. Any number of these things could be handed down. But remember what I said about Luke and the light side versus the dark side of the force? Sometimes what's passed down or handed down are systems and stories and laws and restrictions and things that oppress us. Systems of oppression, stories of less than, meanings and rules of all kinds of things. See, just because it's in a nice little bow wrapped box with, oh, it's got glitter on it, doesn't mean that there isn't dooby dooby doo inside the box. But many of us open this like, oh, look what I got. And then we open it, it's like, oh, oof. And then we keep it. Does that serve us? But we keep it. How are we going to transcend that and move beyond it? One of the themes for this month, we're pulling things from the book Undrowned, written by Alexis Pauline Gumbs, a Black feminist or Black feminist lessons from marine animals. Because all of nature has lessons for us, because all of nature is an expression of God. She says, I think often about the consequences of colonialism within a threatened group. The cost of losing almost everything. The impact of military normalcy. The multiple violences we endure. What if the path to conservation of any of species remaining on the planet is demilitarization? What is the solidarity, evolutionary sistering, ancestral imperative called for in this moment where U.S. colonial territories are in active refusal? What does it look like to be intolerant of colonialism, colonization? What life would spring up? What recovery is possible if the colonial force actually shuts down? I'm asking for a sister of mine, wherever she is now. 3 million years ago, she taught me something about us. I haven't forgotten. We deserve to be free. What's being handed down? What's being passed down? What lessons are available to us in order to shift, to evolve, to heal, to grow, to liberate ourselves collectively so that everyone thrives? There are at least 3 ways to love you: as you were, as you are, as you will be. I love you. That means I choose all 3. The baby Weddell seal has not grown into her flippers. Get what she's saying? What she's implying? What she's suggesting? You are loved now, even as you heal. You are loved now, even as you transform. You are loved now, even in the midst of the addiction, as you go to recovery, therapy. You are loved as you were. You are loved as you are. You are loved as you will become, as you will be. Do you love yourself like this? Or is there a version of you as you were that you can't stand? Is there a version of you that has yet to be that you can't even fathom or imagine? So if you can't fathom or imagine them, how do you love them? How do you step into that space of being able to love yourself as you were, as you are, as you will be? Because love is transformative. Love is healing. This is why one of the greatest things that could ever happen to a child and to the older person is how does the intergenerational relationship work? How is it connected? Whether they're actual family members or not, grandparents and grandchildren, the older gentleman or older woman in the neighborhood who always has a kind word for the kids or sit on the porch and drink lemonade, the father who loves the son and the grandson. It's one of the reasons why I love that image of the father kissing his son's forehead as the son kisses his son's forehead. But how do we nurture these intergenerational relationships and all of the beauty and gifts that they afford us both ways? See, it doesn't just benefit the younger person. It actually benefits the older person as well, which is specifically why there are many senior facilities and adult residences, for the senior residents, neighborhoods, where they've partnered with various schools so that everyone gets to intermingle. There are the adoptive grandparents, per se, and this benefits the older person as well. There are gifts to be had in the sharing of who we are with everyone. Alexis asked, could we communicate more like manatees who stay in communication in all kinds of emergencies? They place their bodies in a way that protects the children. They touch each other to remember and to know. Could we communicate more like them? Remember once again what I said, God is all there is. So a manatee is a divine expression of God. That means when we observe them, there's something we can learn about God in the observation. And as we learn that about God through them, it offers us, how am I communicating? Do I communicate? Do I stay in communication with my friends and family in all kinds of emergencies? Do I place my body in a way that protects the children? And it's not just my physical body, the body of my consciousness. When I vote, do I vote for candidates who have gun sense policies and legislation instead of just, we offer our prayers and thoughts to the children who you offer what? But you ain't changing no laws. You're not changing legislation to have mandatory waiting periods, and you're not doing any of that. Oh, then no, I have no vote for you. I'm placing the body of my consciousness into the hand that pushes the button that votes for. Am I placing my body in order to protect the children? Am I touching in order to remember and in order to know? When I hug, dap, high five, namaste, am I communicating in this way? Or have I shut myself off? For whatever reason, have I shut myself off, thereby denying both myself and other the gift of? And a lot of times we do this stuff simply because of habit. We do it because, we talk about good habits or bad habits, and a lot of what we do is simply out of habit. But I want us to think about something. Habits are patterns. They're patterns of behavior. And both of these are patterns. But one pattern is the one that you want or I want on the bedroom walls, and the other pattern I don't want. But I have to have a level of clarity to know which is the desired pattern and which is the undesired pattern. Which pattern of my behavior is wanted and which pattern of my behavior is unwanted. Or which pattern of my behavior is more effective to helping me become and do and live as I desire, and which patterns are actually not helping me get there or be that. If I can't identify them, old habits versus new habits, less effective versus more effective, or as we often say, are the habits life affirming or are they life denying, non life affirming? See, because weight loss can be life affirming unless I have become anemic or bulimic. And now my weight loss is out of control. And I'm reaching the point of transition because I am, in essence, starving myself and my body is shutting down. There are people who work out to excess, they are obsessed with it. It's life denying then. It's controlling you. So it's important for us, once again, to be able to identify the patterns, the habits, and say, life affirming, do more. Non life affirming, do less. Without judgment. Sometimes the non life affirming, sometimes Ray's going to eat a cookie because Ray want to eat a cookie. And sometimes, as Tracy reminded me, that stressed in reverse spells desserts. So there are going to be times when I may feel stressed and eat a cookie or two or four. Okay, that's not life affirming it once I reach a certain point, especially if I'm not addressing the feelings. Okay, if it happens, it happens. Now what? Because sitting in judgment of it isn't going to do me any good. That's me sitting there and opening that box with the poo-poo in it, and I'm like, oh, look at the dookie. Just look at the poop. Oh, ooh, that smell bad. But I'm still playing in it. It's not going to do any good. Stop. Wipe the finger off. Let me need some hand sanitizer. Wash. I need some bleach. Like wash it, and then refrain from doing it again without the judgment or criticism, and do more of that which is life affirming. And in order to do this, we have to be able to differentiate between what's the story, like what's the story that you've been told about you from your family? What's the story that a teacher or someone told you about you or a minister told you about you as a sinner? That's the story. According to the Bible, we're all sinners because Adam and Eve and sinner. That's the story. Okay, cool. I got you. Got you. So, what's the story that we have been told? What's the story that we believe versus what is your story? Just because someone says this is how it is, may not be how it is for you. But you know, in our family, we are all no, we're not all. I'm not. What you mean you not? I'm not. That's my story. You got yours, I got mine. What in the tarnations? I'm just saying, what is your story? What is the story that you have chosen to tell about yourself, to yourself, about yourself to others? And how does that show up in your life? You get to choose. You don't have to partake in the story that's been written for you, per se, right? You don't have to. You get to create it. Alexis goes back and reminds us, what do we need to remember that will push back against the forgetting encouraged by consumer culture and linear time? Pause. How does consumer culture push us into forgetting? In order for your skin to be and have that youthful glow, simply use, oh, let me forget that I'm beautiful right now, that I will become beautiful if I buy more of this. What else? Consumer culture causes us to forget a lot of things. Time, what was, what is, what will be. And we get caught up in order to, you need the newest iPhone to be cool. You need the newest this. You need to have this or that, or I got to keep up with they package time in a way that keeps us ever urgent. Our phones, when we are doom scrolling, or like I got to always check my Instagram and up to date who clicked like and who said oh, I got a heart and oh, I got more followers. We get bogged down by the time because that too is consumer culture. I am consuming the likes. I'm consuming the followers and somehow letting them validate or invalidate me. What do we need to remember that will push back against the forgetting? What can we remember that will surround us in oceans of history and potential? And how do we remember? What can we remember that will surround us, envelop us in the deep oceans of history, the truth of ourselves, such as, go back to the example of the transatlantic slave trade. There was a time when many people would refer to those people who were kidnapped as slaves. So remember, in America, there was a time when the slaves fought for their freedom. The slaves joined the armies and fought in the Civil War. The slaves, and then we got to a point where we're like, well, no, 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 no. They weren't slaves. They were people who were enslaved. That changes the energy around the story. It changes the energy around their story. It changes the energy around our story because of how we understand history now. This is one reason why it is such an atrocity that there are certain people in the administration currently who would rather history not be taught truthfully. In doing so, they are encouraging us to forget. They are creating systems and structures of forgetting. Because when you do not know, you can't be surrounded by an ocean of history. You are now surrounded by a desert of lack and scarcity. You don't know who you are. You don't know where you've come from. And in not knowing, you don't know what your potential is. And in not knowing what your potential is, it is far easier for you, for me, for us to buy into the story that's told to us. We don't question it. We simply receive it. We follow it. We allow it to become our own. Breathe. I wonder what it means for an ocean dolphin to swim up a river. The bottlenose has a range across the whole planet, the whole open ocean, and yet sometimes they will choose the boundaries and specificity of a river. Brackish water, narrow shores. Why? The message for me today is about specificity, about choosing a lane with all my infinite potential, about how my world traveling grandmother made a commitment to a small island, about how strong we grow sometimes swimming upstream, about what the world can learn from the visibility of our message in a context that is specific enough to ring clear, and to trust that all water touches all water everywhere. All God touches all God everywhere. Because in essence, there is no where when God is all there is. Specificity. How are we choosing and allowing our choosing to impact? She goes on. And for all of you ocean dolphins wondering, what am I doing in this river full of mud? Remember why Harriet Tubman went south. She didn't have to. She was skilled and untraceable. She could have been individually free, unencumbered. But if she wanted to tell an everlasting truth about freedom that would ring across the planet, a message for all ages, throughout the ages, she had to live free in unfree space. Breathe. It was the only way to bring all of us with her. Thank you, my loves, for the bravery of your freedom in spaces of clear limitation, in spaces of muddy reality. Thank you for your decision to do not what you could do, but what you must do. Thank you for teaching the difference between privilege and courage, escape and transcendence, reaction and revolution. Your endurance inscribes an eternal alternative carried by bottles and bottle noses, blood and breath. Message honored, message received. Breathe. So when we talk about this, like a lot of this is about, what is your personal power? What is your interpersonal power? And what is your metapersonal power? How are these things showing up? As she said, you could individually be fine. It's not enough. I need to show up for others because a world that works for all requires me to do this. Personal power, central to science of mind teachings, which emphasize that our thoughts and beliefs, doesn't go into it, but our thoughts, feelings, emotions, actions shape our reality. Unlearning the false narratives imposed by white supremacy and toxic patriarchy is essential to reclaiming this power. By shedding limiting beliefs and embracing the higher truth of our divine nature, we align with the ultimate goal of life, as stated by Dr. Ernest Holmes. That being a complete freedom from all discord of every nature. This process of unlearning and remembering enables us to reconnect with our true selves, affirm our inherent dignity and potential, and live in harmony with the universal intelligence that guides and sustains us. Through this journey, we manifest our fullest potential and contribute to a world that reflects the unity and divine perfection, which is at the heart of science of mind and spirit. Interpersonal power refers to that which involves or happens between multiple people, groups of people. How do we connect with, how are we relating to others? Do we relate to others in ways that subjugate? See, if I bully you, then I feel powerful while denying you yours. Or is my interpersonal power one that balances the yin and yang? Okay, so if that's personal power, me, interpersonal power, we, or our, then metapersonal power is beyond even that. It generally refers to something that transcends or goes beyond the individual, encompassing a broader perspective that includes all things, especially in the context of self-awareness and interconnectedness. In psychology, it's used to describe a self-construal where individuals perceive themselves as deeply interconnected with all forms of life, all of nature, And this perspective extends beyond personal needs and desires to consider the well-being of the larger environment and all living beings or all of nature. This is why I always say the vision is a world that works for all and not just everyone, because it has to work for the natural habitats of animals and the animals themselves as well. We all need to work in harmony and unity. That is a metapersonal power perspective or way of approaching life. Breathe. And one of the ways that we deny this, what do you see? For many of us, it's, oh, that's SeaWorld. And that's yes, yes. But did you also realize that there are powerful parallels between the incarceration of the dolphins at SeaWorld and the societal constraints that are placed upon Black women or women of color? The captivity of dolphins, who are naturally expansive and communal creatures, mirrors the exact same systemic oppression that limits the personal power and the freedom of women of color. And generally, trans women of color, the worst. So once again, we can't talk about our liberation and freedom without talking about the dolphins' liberation and freedom. I can't talk about my liberation and freedom without talking about the liberation and freedom of Black women, women of color, trans women of color. It's either all of us or none of us. Gums highlights that just as dolphins in captivity exhibit signs of distress and diminished validity, Black women women of color also are often confined by various societal expectations and systemic barriers. However, the resilience of dolphins, who continue to communicate and form bonds despite their captivity, serves as a profound metaphor for the enduring strength and the personal power, the interpersonal power, and the metapersonal power of Black women and women of color who navigate and resist these oppressive structures. Reclaiming personal power involves recognizing and honoring this inherent resilience and strength. I invite you to come back and read the rest of this. But keep this in mind. What does it mean to learn how to thrive in a system of oppression until you break the system of oppression? Remember, Harriet Tubman, free, returned and operated as a free person within a system that was not free. And in so doing, she was able to help others be liberated to a certain degree of freedom and liberation and emancipation from her willingness to be resilient and powerful and exhibit her personal and interpersonal and metapersonal power. How are we showing up in, and I know a lot of people in New Thought don't like the phrase or concept of resistance. They need to get over that, because resistance is not the enemy. For a firefighter to wear a flame resistant coat, well, you shouldn't say resist because that means, hush up now. How do we show up and let our joy be a form of protest against the systems of oppression? How do we let our communication and connectivity show up as a form of resistance against the system that would rather we forget? We cannot only embrace ourselves. Somehow, our arms must find themselves around the shoulders of all humanity. We cannot worship a God that belongs to us alone. And only as we enter into a feeling of the essence that diffuses itself everywhere, then at last we can look at each other and say, I worship God in your form. Namaste. That which is the divine showing itself in, through, and as me sees its own self as you, and it knows its own beauty, and so it bows to itself in love and respect. How are we embodying this and embracing all of humanity in order to transform it and heal it? Recognizing that, in essence, our true history and genealogy as the divine is for everybody. Like, we can talk about Ray's history and genealogy and family lineage, and it may be different than yours. But trust and believe, if we trace the line far enough back, somewhere we're going to all reach back to Lucy. Same continent, same region, because we're all family. That's biologically. We ain't even talking about the theological aspect of it. In chapter 3 of Undrowned, Black Feminist Lessons from Marine Animals, Alexis draws parallels between the intergenerational wisdom of marine mammals and the human experience of remembering and honoring our ancestors. She emphasizes that just as marine mammals carry survival strategies through their generations, humans too inherit resilience, wisdom, and sacrifices of those that came before. We draw strength and guidance from their experiences, making remembering not just a tribute to the past, but a way of reclaiming inherited power and capabilities. Jerry Mitchell, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce her indigenous name because when we connect with our ancestors and put their wisdom into action, we are evolving our collective consciousness. We are transporting the ancient truths of our collective past and birthing them into our future. What we create out of those truths extends the wisdom of all those who have gone before us, and it provides a guide for those who will follow. See, it's not just about us in this time, right here, right now. It's about who came before. Dr. Holmes, who came before? Frederick Douglass, who came before? Malcolm X, who came before? Who's here now? How are we bringing their wisdom, their work, their time, talents, and treasures into our own space? Morph it, transform it, make it our own, and then ensure that we are also giving this to the generation to come. See, we right here, right now, may not live to see a world that works for all, but we can damn sure create the space and the container and the energy that ensures that the next generation does. Jen Cushman says, as you focus on clearing generational trauma, do not forget to claim your generational strengths. Your ancestors gave you far more than just your wounds. Generational blessings. Keep in mind that there is this idea of remembering, this idea that is closely tied to our core belief of interconnectedness, divine wisdom, and the power of consciousness. Our ancestors embody the continuity of life and the universal intelligence that flows through all beings. By remembering and honoring them, we tap into the wellspring of resilience, wisdom, and strength that transcends the barriers of time and space in varied generations. This practice reflects our understanding that we are part of an infinite spiritual lineage, where the divine presence within us and as us is a direct inheritance from those who came before us. Honoring our ancestors involves addressing both the traumas and the triumphs that they experienced. While healing from inherited traumas is crucial, recognizing and celebrating the strengths and the wisdom that has been passed down is also equally important. This holistic remembrance integrates their strength into our lives, shaping our identities and our choices. And by engaging in ongoing dialogue with the past, we ensure that our ancestors' legacy actively enriches our present and future. Breathe. In many ways, it has been communicated that we are the dream of our ancestors. And as Toba Beta says, you are the fairy tale that was told by your ancestors. They had a story. The ancestors of 1812 had stories about who their children's children's children would be. We are them. We are their fairy tale. We are their wildest dreams. But are we living in a way that is truly the wildest dream possible for how we can show up? And just for the sake of, conversation, if I were to ask you how many ancestors do you have, just the, an exploration of mathematics. If we started with you, right, like you, and we go back one generation, that's two. Go back, four. Go back, go back, go back. Like, depending on how many generations you go back, do you see the number of people that it took to create you? Right? Like, that's how many generations is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 generations ago. I guess I could have just done 10 generations ago. It took 1,024 people to create you. 1,024 people. That's a lot of bringing things into the mix. A lot of conversations, a lot of touching, a lot of hugging, a lot of a lot of loving, a lot of pain, a lot of grief. All of that went into, and then generation down, and then generation down, and generation, and then these two people, and then you. How do we pull from all of that strength, all of that power, all of that remembering? The songs of our ancestors are also the songs of our children. How do we bring into the space, keeping in mind, we can transcend, just like learning music. I remember learning music, E, G, B, D, F. Every good boy does fine, and face to remember the lines and the spaces. As we learn music, we transcend and we no longer need to know the letters. We simply look at the music and we know. We simply absorb it. The song of our ancestors is already here. Are we still going through it like every good boy does fine? Or have we absorbed it to such a degree that we recognize it? And in so recognizing, we offer it. And if not, then we're invited to unlearn. As Gums expressed, the importance of unlearning the false narratives perpetuated by white supremacy and toxic patriarchy, it reconnects us to ourselves. So how do we upgrade? How do we unlearn? In other words, how do we discard something that we learned that is not life affirming? Like a habit. A lot of people learn habits that are not life affirming. How do we unlearn? How do we discard? How do we transcend and transform? How do we refuse? Just like the person, throwing stuff away. There's one way of saying it, refuse, but it also means refuse. How do we refuse to take on the refuse, the trash, the garbage, the baggage that others would have us lug and carry? Some things we can recycle. For example, here in CSF, in New Thought in general, we've recycled the word God. We use the word, but we don't use it the way many others use it because what God is for us is very different. So while we've recycled the word, many of the things, the baggage and stuff surrounding the word, we have discarded. God as anthropomorphic. We understand it, but we don't use it. It's been discarded. But the word itself, the essence itself, we recycle. Some things we need to get rid of completely in order to move forward and transform and transcend and heal. Because saying no to one thing is saying yes to the possibility of something else. Every no potentially is a yes to something else, and vice versa. What are you saying no to? What are you saying yes to? Saying yes to a family tradition or heritage of, then you're saying no to your freedom. And in saying no to your freedom, then you are now being bombarded by the hoarding of any number of things. So if you want to be free, you have to be willing to discard. Some things can be recycled, but you have to be willing to clean your space, physical space maybe, but also emotional, psychological, social. You have to be willing to clean your space. Grace Guggenheimer says, I carry within me the heart of a warrior, the mind of a pharaoh, the soul of a goddess, and the wisdom of my grandmother's grandmothers. Who do you carry within you? Breathe. Yes, Mermaid Mary, what's up? Oh, you are not bound by anyone's construct or perspective of you. Even your DNA is malleable and at times can misrepresent who and what you are, as it does with transgender people. As the author of your sacred story, what will you choose today? Who will you choose to be, and how will you choose to demonstrate it? What are your dorsal practices? What evolutionary repetitions have you cultivated to move through oceans? And what are the ocean? What are the ones you need to cultivate for the waves moving you now? Dorsal practices. So anatomically, the dorsal means or that which is the back or posterior of a body or structure, right? So as you see in the image, it's on the back. In humans, the dorsal side is our back, spinal column, shoulders, buttocks, etc. See it for the animals. Now, the point being, since we're going to use humans as the example, when people say, stand up straight, that your spine, your spinal column is your central pillar of your posture and ability. So, dorsal practices, what keeps you grounded? What keeps your mind, heart, and soul upright? What gives you the ability to navigate however you need to navigate to stay on balance? What is that for you? What is your practice that helps you to do that? And to do so without feeling the urgency, per se, the urgency of the consumer consciousness and stuff. Where do you think you are going so fast? Marine mammals offer slowing down as a strategic intervention in a world on speed and an appropriate response to the exact urgencies that made us feel we can't slow down. It is the speed boats, the momentum of capitalism, the expediency of pollution that threatens the ocean, our marine mammal mentors, and our own lives. What if we could release ourselves from an internalized time clock and remember that slow is efficient, slow is effective, slow is beautiful, it's purposeful. Breathe. The Science of Mind and Spirit 4.0 offers us a systematic approach to realigning our mental equivalents to the truth of our being and actively living from and as that truth, moment by moment. We honor the past for what it was and who we were, but we are not ensnared in a romanticized idea of the past. Our founders, teachers, and ancestors lived their lives in a certain way, and they passed down various things to us, some life affirming and some not. Either way, Science of Mind and Spirit 4.0 is like a compass that reorients us to our North Star, which is our divine nature. By embodying that truth, we heal, evolve, awaken, realize, and live in ways that heal, evolve, awaken, and bring realization to others. And a world that works for all is the result. This week's affirmation, our declaration, I will say it first. And if it resonates with you, I invite you to say it the second time. In this moment, I remember the truth of who and what I am. Together. In this moment, I remember the truth of who and what I am. And so it is. This week's Thursday night study group questions and your own personal journal questions. Number one, we're revisiting those questions from the beginning. What would it mean for me to unlock the power within and embark on a transformative journey of divine insights? Why is that even a thing to consider? What is locked? What is the key? What is the power within? Within what? What is the journey? How is it traveled? What is the destination? And who or what will I become as a result of getting there? Number two, what is a story that I was told that I have since changed about myself, about the world, about other people, or about God? Number three, what has been handed down to me that has been life affirming, and what has been handed down to me that has been non life affirming? Number four, what are my dorsal practices and what do they do for me? Number five, what is an example of one of my life affirming habits or patterns? And what is one example of a non life affirming pattern or habit that I still engage in? Number six, the quote by Grace Guggenheimer, read it out loud and then, what does it feel like when I read aloud? I carry within me, etc., etc. What does it feel like to read it out loud with great gusto? This week's The Practice. What are we doing? Have a conversation about some family tradition, a family trait, or some hand me down. It could even be a story about your biology and share how it has impacted your life. Trying to think of one for myself. Okay, so my family, everyone in my family was athletic. They all played football, sports, some baseball, something. Even my mom was a trophy-winning championship bowler. I didn't play any sports. How did it impact my life? There was a time when I used to feel guilty and shame about it. And then I realized, oh, wait a minute, I'm extremely athletic. I do martial arts. That's extremely I do stuff that they can't do. Just as an example. So we breathe and we enter into that space of infinite knowing, simply saying, I know who and what I am. I remember who and what I am. I choose the story that I tell about myself, about others, and about God. And in so choosing that story, I unlock the infinite wisdom that the collective consciousness, that the lessons of bad theology, non-life affirming theology, non-life affirming policies and practices by a corrupt government, all of these things that would lock within me by making me forget. In this moment, I step into the space of I remember. I remember who I am. I remember my freedom. I remember my divinity. And the story I tell is that I tell of the great wisdom. I tell of the power and blessings of my ancestors that flows through my body, my veins, my soul, the deep divine inheritance that is the universe itself, gifting me and blessing me itself as me. There is no greater gift than that, than God gifting God the gift of God. And with it comes love and joy and bliss and passion, intelligence and creativity, communication, all of it right here, right now, showing up in, through, and as me. And what is true for me is true for everyone watching right now. That's the power. That's the presence. So I breathe knowing that the amen is the demonstration of how we live this remembering, how we live this story, how we live this truth, how we live as the divine demonstration of I know who I am, I know what I am, moment by moment, breath by breath. I am that which God is, ever becoming more of itself as me. I am that. The law says yes. And so I go out and live my life telling this story, living this story, and being all that this story would have me be as my embodied and expressed truth, the whole truth, and only that which is true. And so it is. And so it is. As always, namaste and blessings. Today being our first Sunday, if you would like to join us for after message fellowship, if you don't have the Zoom link, email. If you do have the Zoom link, I will see you there. Blessings and thank you.